Hello everybody, welcome to Spiritual Metaphysics 101. My name is Yaakov, I'm your host. I'm also a student and teacher of metaphysics, and particularly A Course in Miracles. Let me show you a copy of my book, A Course in Miracles. Pardon me. Here's a copy of the handbook, A Course in Miracles. This one is put out by the Society for A Course in Miracles, or more aptly, Course in Miracles Society. That's one version of A Course in Miracles. Another one is put out by the Foundation for Inner Peace, and they put out a more standard edition. This one is the unedited edition, and the Foundation for Inner Peace puts out the edited edition, which is more commonly used in this country and throughout the world. The reason I started out with A Course in Miracles in this episode is because it is so close and dear to my heart. Everybody needs a spiritual path, one that you can stick with. And when I found A Course in Miracles in 1992, I realized at that moment that this was a spiritual journey that I could follow. And in the last 20 years, which it is now, this is 2012, I've studied seriously A Course in Miracles. And I've read a lot of books about A Course in Miracles from the so-called experts, those that are teachers of teachers. Now I consider myself a teacher. That is not an ego statement. The only thing that it means is that I've decided to carry the message of love and transformation in my own way and let the Holy Spirit work through me, for instance, in these episodes. We started about 3 years ago. This is our 125th episode. And I was just talking to my wife about the future as far as continuing to share the message. And she's very supportive of continuing. And I'm really inclined to agree with her. No matter how many people how many people may watch these episodes on TV, connecting with one person, as the Course in Miracles says, is a holy encounter. And every person that is so inclined may pick up A Course in Miracles or find another path. There are thousands of them back to the peace of God. A Course in Miracles is one that I think is exceptional. And it's a magnificently powerful way of discovering that you are one with your Creator, and that you are one with love, and that you are one with everybody on the planet. There's no separation, even though it seems that there is. And I want to talk a little bit about separation, which is an illusion. The idea of separation originated when there was a tiny mad idea, as the Course says. This is analogous to the fall of grace, from the Garden of Eden. And we thought that we had in some way split off or separated from our Creator. We had sinned. And because we had sinned, we were no longer welcome in the state of heaven. Well, A Course in Miracles goes on to teach very powerfully that that was a mistaken idea, that we were expelled and that there was a fall from grace. It never happened. It was a tiny mad idea. For whatever reason, and it's not even worth going into, except to say that the tiny mad idea was taken seriously rather than laughed at that original instant. And springing from that tiny mad idea of separation from the Garden of Eden, from heaven, from God our Creator, projected an entire world and all the bodies that seemingly are separate from each other. But as the Hindus say, that is an illusion. It's Maya, M-A-Y-A. And the Buddhists similarly say to detach from that which we consider the physical, that we consider false idols, that will in some way give us the peace that we've lost from God. That is an error. And what we want to do is become awake again and aware again and skillful again in connecting and joining with everybody. I have a wonderful opportunity coming up in about a week. Many of you may know I go out and volunteer at the state prison here for men, and they're having a conference on reconciliation. And that particular topic, I think, is so consistent with what we're talking about in terms of our path back to realizing we've never left heaven and that we are one with our Creator. Reconciliation, joining with each other, forgiveness of each other, remembering that we are but love and we are not these physical bodies that, come and then pass away. So I'm looking forward to that conference, and then I think I'll be on a panel that's discussing reconciliation. So I'm giving some thought to ideas and kind of fitting in with what we're talking about. Again, my wife and I earlier today, we were talking about the weather, and that doesn't sound very spiritual. But here it is the middle of December, and it's approaching 70 degrees outside. So we were talking about the global warming phenomenon, and is it a fluke that the weather is just this way, or is global warming real? Well, putting it in spiritual terms, and particularly in the context of A Course in Miracles, everything that we experience is a projection from our minds, individually and collectively. So the phenomenon that we're experiencing is simply a projected idea, fearful as it is based on the ego, of warming, and then what that could mean, the rising of the oceans and decimation of people and plants and everything that's close to the oceans. Well, this is one more example that nothing exists outside of us save for the idea that originates it. The ideas do not leave their source. So it doesn't really exist out here as global warming. It exists out there, and exist is not the right word, but it's pictured out there. But that's simply an outward manifestation of an inner condition, which is the idea that never leaves our minds, and that's the idea of separation and fear. And fear manifests in many, many different ways. Dis-ease, global warming, conflicts and wars, all kinds of issues that, economic problems. We're just coming through a big recession right now. Everything that seems calamitous is really an outward projection of an inner condition that we seem to see out there, global warming included. So all of this to say, I'm very interested in continuing this conversation with whomever is watching, and however it may you may appreciate it, because I know what it's meant to me. I've said it's 20 years now since I found A Course in Miracles, but in those last 20 years I've also experienced and read widely many other spiritual paths, and I want to share a little bit with you today. For instance, and I've mentioned Richard Rohr before, I'm continuing to read. He's a Franciscan monk, and I think he's in New Mexico. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about in his book today is the meaning of spiritual love. And he starts out this chapter, The Meaning of Spiritual Love, with a quote from St. John of the Cross. And this is if you will, a love letter or a prayer to God. And St. John of the Cross writes in his spiritual canticle, is that how you pronounce that, canticle? Okay. When you regarded me, your eyes imprinted your grace in me. In this you loved me again, and thus my eyes merited to also love what you see in me. Let us go forth together to see ourselves in your beauty. And then Richard Rohr goes on, John of the Cross was far ahead of his time in spiritual and psychological understandings of how love works and how true love changes us at a deep level. He consistently speaks of divine love as the template and model for all human love. In this surely inspired passage, St. John of the Cross describes the very process of love at its best. Quote, "You give a piece of yourself to the other. You see a piece of yourself in the other. This allows the other to do the same in return. You do not need or demand anything back from them, because you know that you are both participating in a single, bigger gazing and loving, one that fully satisfies and creates an immense inner aliveness. You accept being accepted for no reason and by no criteria whatsoever. This is the key that unlocks everything in me for others and toward God, so much so that we call it salvation. And then Brother Rohr goes on, such utterly free and gratuitous love is the only love that validates, transforms, and changes us at the deepest levels of consciousness. Once you allow it for yourself, you will almost naturally become a conduit of the same for others. In fact, nothing else will attract you anymore or even make much sense. I was on a conference call this morning concerning A Course in Miracles, and there are various conference calls that students and teachers such as myself can get onto at various times during the week, where we discuss text and also workbook lessons from the Course. And one of the participants on the call was sharing her experience over a recent holiday get-together with her family. And she was saying how everybody is discussing technology and politics and the news and so forth of the day. And she said, I'm just not into or interested in that anymore. And I love my family, and I'm so glad that I had time to spend with them. But those interests that I once shared no longer are of much interest to me. And I think what she was saying, and I'm paraphrasing her, is that all I'm interested now is experiencing deeper and deeper awareness of love, God's spiritual love. And then I'm interested in sharing it in whatever way is most appropriate, and that the Holy Spirit or the Buddha or the Christ in me extends itself. That's the way. And I'm thinking as I'm sharing this, what you can do is talk technology with people, or talk politics, or the news of the day. But you do it in a way that isn't angry anymore. It's not attached to a point of view. I think that gets back to a very big teaching that I've been trying to convey, and that my teachers have taught me. And that is that you live a normal life. You certainly don't withdraw from life entirely, but you live life normally from a place of spiritual love, where you're acknowledging that other people have a right to a point of view, but you don't forget that they are not that point of view. So you can love them irrespective of whatever point of view they hold. It doesn't matter anymore. I remember, early on in my progress spiritually, and certainly before I made any progress, points of view with other people made all the difference in terms of my acceptance of them, made all the difference in terms of my joining with them. And what I've learned is that people, including you and I, are not our point of view. We are the totality of all points of view. We are a space, if you will, with really no circumference. It's limitless and it's infinite. That's what love encompasses, is all points of view. And I'm learning that, albeit very slowly. And it's taken a lot of work. I want to share with you something that I receive in my emails. This is from Fragrant Heart, and it's a heart-centered meditation every day that they send. And you can subscribe to this. It's free. And this comes from fragrantheart.com. And this was December 9th. They sent me this daily meditation. That's for today. Quote, I walk with ever-increasing awareness. I eat with ever-increasing awareness. I love with ever-increasing awareness. Whatever I am doing with ever-increasing awareness, to be fully present in this moment. close quote. Well, I mean, I enjoyed their daily meditations. Some are a little better than others in my estimation, but this one I really enjoyed because it says, I walk with ever-increasing awareness. Well, I'm taking that very literally in my own case. I'm walking a lot more lately. You know, in the last 3 months, 2.5 months, I've begun walking every day. We have a new little dog that I've been walking, but I'm walking meditatively as well, as much as I can. I'm walking with awareness. And what I find is that is some of the best meditation time of my day when I'm out walking. So it's a beautiful time. And then it says, I eat with ever-increasing awareness. Well, I've been eating in the last 2.5, 3 months with real skillfulness, purposefulness, and I've lost about 15 pounds in a couple months. And I want to tell you it's not difficult, but what I think it's attributable to is opening up to this increased awareness that I am spiritual love, and that everything that I do is really imbued with spiritual love, or the alternative is a mindless state of overeating, not exercising, not joining with people, and isolating. So, you know, the choices become very clear for me. And this has been a process over 20 years. All I can say is that it didn't come overnight where, gee, I got this email, or, you know, I had an insight. I've been working on this for so long. I also was telling my wife recently, and I'm sure she notices this, I'm on a TV fast now. And I've wanted to disengage myself from TV for years, unable to do it. And in the last couple of months, I have been less and less watching TV. And now I don't watch any at all. But it's not a sacrifice. And I want to focus on the sacrificial aspect. None of the increasing awareness and where it leads us is also a sacrifice. I think religion oftentimes confuses the issue. Like we'll say, what are we giving up for Lent? Or are we going to fast over the high holidays in the Yom Kippur and the days of you know, atonement? Well, there's a sacrifice aspect, but I don't feel that I'm sacrificing it. Anything, eating properly and with awareness, walking every day with awareness, not watching TV and wasting my time anymore with the endless commercials and the endless inane comedy that I never, you know, really appreciated but was addicted to. So I guess the point that I'm making, and I'm suggesting that you check out fragrantheart.com, is that you up your ante, whatever level you're at, just to the next right thing, and try it for a while. But do it with the help of your spiritual guide within you. And each of us has, of course, the one teacher, the great metaphysician. We call it by different names, of course. A Course in Miracles says it very well. It says, you know, a universal theology isn't possible. So I know everybody can't have the same religion, but it says a universal experience is not only possible, it's essential. So the universal experience of an inner metaphysician or guide, comforter, if you will, that is imperative. Otherwise, we don't maintain our awareness. We can't do it on our own. And the reason we can't do it on our own is because we are so imbued with the idea that we've fallen from grace and that we really are separate from our Creator. That whole idea of sin and guilt and separation is what's being undone by the awareness and spiritual love journey that we're embarking on and that we're continuing on every day. That's what we're doing. Here's something else I'll share with you. This is from an Al-Anon book that I read. It's a daily reader. And this is called Hope for Today. And this is for December 8th. And I think it's real consistent with what we're talking about. It says on a personal, this is somebody writes, on a personal level, the Al-Anon tradition helps me transform the character defect of resentment into the principle of compassion, spiritual love, reconciliation. They go on, in being compassionate to myself, I release the resentments that eat at my heart and soul and keep me from my spiritual awakening. Compassion to myself. As I release my resentments, I can extend compassion to others. I can love myself enough to love them too. I become so full of love and compassion that I can't keep it bottled up inside. I need to share it with others. My compassion becomes the healing light of my higher power, shining through me to welcome and comfort other friends and family members. Then they go on, what are some of the ways in which I can extend compassion to myself and to others? Well, they make reference to practicing progress, not perfection. That's a 12-step slogan. We make spiritual progress. We're not attaining spiritual perfection by next Thursday, as we like to say. It's a process. And there's a willingness to listen and love unconditionally. That's a big one for all of us, learning how to love unconditionally. And what we notice when we try and we come up against all these barriers is our resistance to loving people unconditionally. So we have to turn within to that metaphysical spirit and guide and comforter, Holy Spirit, if you will. And by giving my support and understanding, I complete the circle of compassion that was so freely given to me. And here's the thought for the day in this reading. How can I show compassion for myself and those around me? Today I will practice compassion. First, I will be kind and loving to myself, but I will not stop there. I will extend this compassion to others. And that's from Courage to Change, which is another daily reader in the Al-Anon tradition. Well, there's another reference that I want to share with you in this episode, and this will be the last one, I think, for today. And this is on my Kindle, which I've been using for the last 6 months or so. I really appreciate the technology that allows me to access so many books, so quickly. And this particular book is called The Way of Transformation, and it's a 3-part book: Way of Mastery, Way of Transformation, and The Way of Love. And this one is The Way of Transformation. And this is lesson 24. I think the lessons correspond with chapter titles. And this one is called It Is Now Up to You. This is a channeled work. So this is a non-physical being of a higher spiritual nature speaking through a man who took, he didn't take it down, he voiced it and taped it, and then it was written down. So, there'll be a graphic at the end of this show on how you can access The Way of Transformation if you want to read that. It's in book form, and also you can get it on Kindle. Anyway, lesson 24, It Is Now Up to You. And this is the non-physical spiritual being speaking through him. Beloved and holy friends, I come forth to join with you, not from a place that is apart from where you are, but from that place in which we are eternally joined as one mind, one heart, one truth, one creation, one love. I come forth then to abide with you from the place in which you dwell eternally. I come forth to abide with you because I love you. I come forth to abide with you because you are, as I am, the thought of love in form. And then he says, we come now to the conclusion of the way of transformation. That way which allows the perception of the mind to be transformed from illusion to reality, from fear to love. That way is the way in which you come to the brink, or to the edge of the kingdom of heaven, in which you are finally ready to use the power of the mind to declare only what is true. And what is true is unshakable forever. And here's a declaration of that truth that he gives, or it gives. I don't want to be gender specific. The declaration of truth in the way of transformation, quote, "I and my Father are one. I, as a ray of light, am one with the source of light, from which all things spring forth. I, as a drop of water, am one with the ocean, from which all moisture arises. I am that one sent forth from divine mystery, to bring forth the good, the holy, and the beautiful, to reflect in time and in form that which is timeless and formless, that which I have referred to as Abba, or Father, that creative source that births all things and has an immediate and direct relationship with all of creation." And he goes on under a subtitle of truth, the way of transformation. I and my Father, I and my creative source, I and love are one. From this moment forward, I walk and live as one who chooses to use the power of mind, the power of awareness, the power of intention and clarity, the power of being itself, to know the truth that sets all things free. I choose to be the truth that allows freedom to be extended to all others. I choose to walk upon this plane while yet the body lasts for a little while, as that one who has been sent forth as a ray of light to shine light into a world that has feared it. And that is spiritual love. Well, we're going to close this episode on that reading, and I'm just again so pleased that I've had a chance to be with you, technologically as it were, but I think that this all transcends the medium, and the content is love. As I like to close, you are as God created you. Namaste, shalom, and peace. And we'll see you next time.